Long ago and far away, in enchanted lands across the seas, lived kings and queens, princes and princesses, good fairies and wicked witches, ferocious giants and gentle dwarfs. Their adventures and stories have been told for hundreds of years. Open the pages and listen to the words, and you too can join the magical world of Once Upon a Time.
King Roughbeard. Once upon a time, there was a king who had a very beautiful daughter. Although her beauty was admired by many, everybody agreed she had a horrible personality. On one special day, the king held a great banquet, and to this banquet he invited many suitors. The princess swanned past them all, and she didn't have a good word to say about any of them. "He's as round as a barrel," she said to one. "He's built like a maypole," she told the tallest, thinnest prince. "What a dumpling," she told a short, fat one. The next was very pale. "You look like a ghost," she told him. The fifth had a very rosy complexion. "Hello, beetroot face," she said. But she laughed most at the king who was introduced to her. "Look at him. His beard is like an old mop. He should be called King Roughbeard." So from that day, the poor fellow was known as King Roughbeard. The princess's father was very angry with his daughter's behavior. "I've had enough of this behavior. You have been so rude to our guests," he said. "For all this nonsense, you will marry the first beggar who comes to the door." The next day, a beggar musician happened to be passing the palace. He stopped under the king's bedroom window, where he played his mandolin and sang a little song. It cheered the king up, so he shouted to the servants below, "Let the man in!" The servants showed the dirty-looking fellow in. When he had sung for the king and princess, he begged for money. "You have sung so well that you can marry my daughter," he said. "No, please, father," she begged. "I couldn't possibly marry such a scruffy half-wit." But as much as the princess cried and pleaded, the king wouldn't give in. "You will marry him," he said firmly. So off to the church they went, and the princess was married to the musician. And when the ceremony was over, the king said, "Now you must leave home and go to live with your new husband." So the travelling musician took his new wife with him. Soon they came to a huge wood. It was a beautiful wood, full of wild flowers and pretty little creatures. "Tell me," said the princess, "who owns all this?" "It belongs to King Roughbeard," said the musician. "If you had married him, all this would have been yours." "How unlucky I am," she thought. "How I wish I'd married King Roughbeard." They walked on through the wood, and next they came to some beautiful green meadows. "Whose are these green meadows?" she said. "They belong to King Roughbeard. If you'd taken him as a husband, this would all have been yours," he said. "What an unlucky girl I am," she sighed to herself. "If I had married King Roughbeard, I would be able to stroll through these meadows whenever I wanted. Finally, they came to a tiny cottage. "What a cramped place to live," said the princess. "Who owns this dirty little hovel?" The musician answered, "This is our house. It's the place where we shall spend the rest of our married lives." "But where are your servants? I can't live without servants," said the princess. "Why do folk like us need servants?" said the musician. "Whatever needs to be done, we can do ourselves. Come along now, make the fire and put on the water so that you can cook my supper. I'm very tired after all this walking." But the princess had never cooked or made a fire in her life, and the beggar musician had to show her what to do. She managed to cook a very simple meal, and when they had eaten, they went to bed. Early the next morning, the musician woke her up. "Clean the house," he said. So she spent the whole day sweeping the floors with her broom. The princess continued to cook and clean for her husband, but within a week they had eaten up all there was in the cottage. The husband became worried. "We can't go on like this, spending money and earning nothing. You must learn how to weave baskets." So he went out and cut willows and brought them home for her. The princess started to weave, but it made her fingers very sore. She wasn't used to hard work. "This work won't do," said the beggar. "Try and spin instead. Perhaps you'll do that better." But when she started to spin, the threads cut her tender fingers until the blood ran out. "What a good-for-nothing you are! You can do no work. My only last hope is to set you up with pots and pans, and you shall stand in the market and sell them." "Alas," she sighed, "when I stand in the market in these fine clothes, everyone will mock me." But the beggar musician didn't listen to her complaints. "You must work or we'll die of hunger," he said. So the beggar musician took the princess to the marketplace and helped her set out a stall. Then he left her alone there while he went to gather wood in the forest. "Come and buy my wares," she cried out, but she didn't really need to say anything. Most were so captivated by her beauty that in no time hordes of people had flocked around her stall. In fact, they were so entranced by her that they gave her their money and forgot to take their goods away. The princess and the beggar musician lived on the money she earned for as long as they could, and eventually, when she had sold all their wares, her husband bought some new pots and pans for her to sell.
It's time to turn over to side 2.